Hi, I'm John DeArmond with Scotchman Industries, and today we're pleased to present our iVision vacuum system meant for our GAA and SUP non-ferrous upcut saws. This vacuum has a 1471 CFM capacity with a 4.8 horsepower motor, and it has a 42-gallon chip bin that's got a little visual window in it, and it also has its own casters for when you quick release the bin, you can roll it out. Well, this vacuum comes stock with a disconnect switch for on-off, and it comes stock with a little vibratory self-cleaning filter motor on it, which you can connect air to. This vacuum pictured here has the optional automatic start system, so you have a hand, an off, and an auto position on this auxiliary control box for the auto option only. And this saw is also shown equipped with the self-cleaning kit. This kit gives you this hose, and it gives you this 2-inch wand, and it also gives you a number of attachments for the head. Now, one thing that you'll need that's not included due to the variations of the different installations are these duct reducers for the hoses. The hose to the vacuum is a 5-inch hose, so you have to get a 6-inch by 5-inch duct reducer from the hardware store. And if you have a self-cleaning kit, you'll need at minimum a 6 to a 4-inch reducer, a 4-inch blast gate, and a 4x2 reducer for this hose to attach to for the cleaning kit. As shown here, Scotchman also has a 6-inch Y in here so that we can connect a second machine to it, which is certainly another possibility for customers looking to buy this machine. To take out the chip in this machine is a very simple operation. There's a small grounding strip on the side here. You just release the screw off of the strap here. And you lift the handle, and you're free to roll out the chip, roll it to the dumpster, wherever it needs to go. And then when you reinsert the chip bin, you just roll it in until it stops, and push down the bar, and then reattach your grounding strap, and it's that simple. Now, once or twice per shift, it's recommended to do a self-cleaning on the filter. This prevents it from getting packed with debris, which will start reducing power of the vacuum. To do this, you attach a hose up to 90 psi, and you let that run for about 2 minutes of cleaning, and that'll shake the bag out. There's a little vibratory air motor in the bottom of the filter that's shaking it out now. When you're done, you can just disconnect air. Now, some customers choose to put a valve on that fitting, and for us, because this is a show machine, we just connect an air line to it. These machines do have casters on them, so the whole machine rolls around and not just the chip bin. And these machines have pretty effective brakes, so if we lock the brakes, this is pretty solid at that point. It's not going to move. And the reason why you'd want this machine to roll around is to change out the filter bag. You want to take the head off of this machine. And this head weighs a little over 80 pounds, so it's nice to get it onto a hoist. So we have everything on a disconnect fitting here so that it can be unplugged from the wall, and we can unplug the hoses off the machine. Now, when you're getting these attachments, it's important to drill a 1/4-inch hole into the end of the flange, about 1 3/4 inches in, so that we can have this positive retaining pin latch onto that hole. On the simple reducers, the location of the hole doesn't really matter, but in this application on this side where we have a Y and we want it to sit in a specific situation, just be careful to note where the locating pin is when you drill the hole in your adapter. For installation, you're going to want to make sure that this vacuum is as close to the saw and as close to the electrical connection that you're planning as possible to reduce the amp hole on the cable length, and also to reduce the suction loss in your vacuum hose. Now, for this installation, we're just connecting this vacuum to a show machine. It's right next to the saw. In many applications, there'll be a conveyor here, so the best placement for access to the vacuum and the saw conveyor will work fine. This vacuum comes with 16 feet of this 5-inch hose here to connect to a machine. And when you get done with your placement and you get your hoses connected the way that suits the shop best, the next step will be to connect electrical. On the stock vacuums, I just have one disconnect box here on the side of the vacuum towards the back. If you add the auto start kit on, there's a second electrical box, but the main one we're interested in initially is the electrical box with this disconnect switch. That's where your wire from the wall is going to come in. On this particular machine, we've wired in a cable with a 230 volt plug, which you can see here in the wall. And that goes straight into the top of this overload switch, which it doubles as a circuit breaker and a disconnect switch. You'll also want to check the tightness on all the electrical connections in the disconnect switch box. If you have auto start, you want to open up the auto start panel box and make sure that all the connections are tight in there. And also on the motor, you're going to want to make sure that the bus bars are in the right orientation. This is a dual voltage motor, so you just want to make sure it's not wired for the wrong voltage, whether it's 230 or 460. This machine is only available in 230 and 460 three-phase. The next step after you check connections and you wire in the machine to your power source is you want to make sure the overload is set for the right amperage. For 230 volt three-phase machines, that'll be 12 amps. For 460 volt three-phase machines, that'll be around 7 amps. When you get the machine so that it's wired in and everything is ready to energize, for the models that come standard with just the disconnect box, you'll turn the disconnect switch on and that'll immediately energize the vacuum. If you have an automatic start model like this vacuum, you'll have to turn the disconnect switch on and then you'll have to turn the switch from off in the center to hand. And you want to bump that one time, and then you want to check the rotation on top of the motor. There's an arrow in the back that tells you which way the motor should be going. And just double check that. If it's wrong, you can come back here to your disconnect switch and flip any two of the leads coming in to change motor direction. Now for auto start wiring, you can click it over to this automatic position here on the right of the auto start box. And this saw will energize, or this vacuum will energize with the saw whenever the saw is turned on. And for the SUP 600, that's an auxiliary contactor that bolts straight to the front of the motor contactor. For the GAA series, you'll wire that into your soft starter on the auxiliary contact of the soft starter. This is a demonstration of the auto start functionality of the vacuum. So as you can see, when I hit the power button for the saw motor, the saw and the vacuum come on. And we're going to cut apart here. Turning the saw motor back off de-energizes both the vacuum and the saw. And you can see while there is chip that still makes it on the table, the vast majority of the chip gets sucked into the vacuum suction on the back of the machine. So this is showing the electrical connection for the vacuum. Now this is not as clean as a standard install would be because this is a show machine and it gets moved around a lot. But we've brought the vacuum cable in from the back of the cabinet so the front door can be shut. It has to route through the slot in the shelf of the door. And you'll have one lead that goes to 0 on the transformer, which is your 24 volt AC neutral. You'll have another lead go to a contactor, and then you'll have a jumper to the contactor go to 24 volt AC live. So when this contactor closes for the motor, it'll pull this auxiliary contact in and energize the coil that's connected to this wire inside of the vacuum. And that small control solenoid that this controls will then energize the main contactor on the vacuum. And that's how this works for the SUP 500 and 600. The GAA series is wired differently, and they'll have a soft starter on the motor since they have a larger motor, and that soft starter will have a control relay built into it, so we don't need this auxiliary relay for those machines.
Okay, on a GAA machine, connection of the vac is similar. The idea is the same as an SUP, but instead of having to add an auxiliary contact, the soft starter has a built-in control contact that comes on and off with the motor. So we'll wire in the switch to 13 and 14 instead of an auxiliary contactor. Now, some of these GAA machines make use of this control contact for the saw itself, and in that situation we would add an auxiliary contactor and an unused portion of rail here, and we would have the soft starter fire that relay, which then could handle controlling both an AC and a DC contact. If there's any confusion in wiring the automatic vacuum kit on your GAA machine, you can feel free to contact Scotchman Industries for an appropriate diagram.
You just take the screws out of the front cover, one high, one low. We'll turn this off. We'll make sure the disconnect is off. That should be fine for this box. Okay. Hang down like that. So control wiring can actually be tested without the vacuum connected to the wall. As I show here, the vacuum is unplugged. If I come over to the saw and energize the saw motor again, you see without the vacuum connected, that coil will energize, and this is the small control contactor that will pull in the main contactor for auto start. So it's not necessary for the vacuum to be energized for us to test the auto start wiring. When we turn the saw motor off, that light will go back out. And if that LED goes on and off, when the saw motor comes on and off, you know that wiring has been successfully done at the saw end. The wiring to the saw is right here in the bottom of this auxiliary relay. So when you're wiring the vacuum to this saw, just make sure your two wires that you're wiring in the saw are these two wires here coming on the underside of this Omron control relay.
Also, while the bin's out, you can inspect the condition of the filter. And you look up under there, you don't want to see chip that's packed completely between the filter and the side of the machine. If that's the case, then you'll have to rod it out. Being careful not to tear the filter, you just gently stick a stick or something in there and rod it. If you keep your filter maintained with the vibrator, that shouldn't happen. But if this filter is allowed to plug, you'll notice a reduction in vacuum efficiency, and that's when you know you need to do this. Alright, so when you're removing the top off of this vacuum, you want to make sure to remove this bolt, and then you want to disconnect all four of these latches, and this is where it's nice to be able to disconnect everything and roll your vacuum away. On the top of the vacuum, there's actually another ground strap below that's connected to the filter frame. So when you lift this a short way, that's going to pull taut if this bolt isn't out. The other thing you want to make sure of when you're taking this head off before you lift it off all of the way is that there is a quick connect air fitting that goes down to that vibratory motor. Lift this up a short way and disconnect that air line before you lift it up the rest of the way. And finally, the last thing that tethers the head down is the motor cable down to either the disconnect box on a stock machine or the automatic box on an auto start machine. We find if we pick the head up a short distance, come over with it, pull it down on the table on the side of the machine, then we don't have to unwire the head. But the air line and the ground strap, you want to make sure that you take off first. Okay, so now that you have the top of the vacuum removed, you can take out the filter frame. And to do that, you just lift up, and you can see we have some packed filter shavings. This probably be advised to get ready to make a mess on the floor, so if you need to put blankets down or what have you, that'd be a good thing to do ahead of time. The filter can be simply removed out by the frame. And then there's a band clamp that goes around the perimeter here. So you release this band clamp, and then you're free to slip the filter off of this frame. And then you put your new filter on and lock it back down in the same fashion. And when you put this back on, make sure you align the ground strap back to where it was. Slide it down. Make sure that you cleared the flange all the way around of chip to make sure you have a good seal. And that way when you put everything together, you have a nice solid suction. So this has been a demonstration of the Scotchman iVision vacuum system, compatible with all GAA and SUP upcut saws, or any other machine that you can hook a hose up to 6-inch connection. And we thank you for taking your time to watch, and hope to have some business soon.